Hey everybody, this is Rex Carroll. It's divine, it's aggressive, it's divine aggression music right here. Tune it in, rip the knob off.
All right, I have a special guest with me for this edition of Divine Aggression Radio. It is an honor for me to welcome a guitar virtuoso, someone who has had a wonderful solo career and has also made his claim to fame in the bands King James and, of course, Whitecross. I want to welcome Rex Carroll to the show. Welcome, brother.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going? Good to be here, Kelly.
Well, hey, thank you for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. And we've got a lot to talk about. There's so many things I want to ask you about, but let's delve right into the new King James album. Now, I haven't had a chance to get my hands on it yet. I'm going to. But I looked at the track listing, and when I looked at the tracks, I said, wait a minute, I know some of these songs. Tell me about the album, about previous songs being on there, how everything came about. I want to know all about the new album.
Well, I'm going to give you a little rundown as to how we got to this point. In 2011, a friend of ours had gone to work for Madison Line Records, which is a new label out of Memphis, Tennessee, and said to me, basically, you can do whatever you want. We're giving you a blank slate. What would you like to do? I said, well, I would love to have a new King James album. And so we met with them in the fall of 2011 to see that it was a good fit, matching the same goals as what we wanted to do and what they wanted to do. So after that, we spent all of 2012, the better part of the year working on the album, but having said that, a lot of that was because we had been dormant for so long. It took a long time to pull everything together, and in the process of songwriting, first thing that came up was the first album that we had done back in 1994, the first King James release, had songs that we felt really needed a better presentation. Therefore, we made that decision. Okay, we're gonna take a second crack at. There are 4 songs on the new CD that are re-record versions of the old CD, and the main difference this time around is the incredible growth of what Jimmy has done vocally is just, it's jaw-dropping, really. He's really worked over the last 15 years, come into his own, kind of pulled himself up quite a bit by the bootstraps, and I knew that we had that, and I knew I was just rubbing my hands together. People are going to freak when they hear this. Second thing is we really took our time to make sure that we have a band that is a long-term band. One of the things that was just a problem with previous band situations, Whitecross, and just having band members come in and going, it's like I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. Just not going to do it. I'm not going to get into a situation where we have different guys playing on the record that are not in the band and hiring touring guys and this and that. I'm not going to go there anymore. So the band that we have it's one band is set. Everybody's in this group. You have one way that you're allowed to leave the band, and that is when you get promoted to heaven. And that's the only way you're allowed to leave. So that was like really, really hyper important to me. So that was a big part of the process. So there's a trust factor there. Everybody just played lights out on the record, and you'll hear the most amazing drumming from Michael Fian, and of course, Benny Ramos steps in on the bass guitar, and so it's a real band. We all play together, we live together, we write music together, we perform together, we're in the studio together, and that is what really made it special for me. And then the new songs that we have are just carrying on with what has kind of become the identity of King James. One of the identities of King James is that we write songs about situations that we know, people we know, real events that have happened to us, and just our perspective on things. Therefore, you get a song like Mississippi Kid, which is dedicated to our good friend and brother Ian Evans, who went home to be with the Lord back in, I believe it was 2009. Just a tribute song for him, our former bass player from back in the mid-'90s. And so those are the kind of songs that we have, just filled with real stories about real things. And, man, I got to tell you, it rocks hard. I've definitely played some of the best guitar that I have played on anything that I've ever done. I'm very happy with how all of it came out. Couldn't be more proud of it, and I'm ready for everybody to take a listen to this record.
Now, I totally understand about having a solid lineup, because first album you were with a couple of guys from Stryper. And,
that's right.
And I was when I bought that album back in '94, I was thinking, how are they going to hold this together with Tim and Robert? Because that just seemed like.
Well, I got to tell you, back then we were just we were doing everything that we could think of, and I knew both of those guys, and just called them up, said, hey, you guys want to do this? And they said yes. And actually, we would talk to Robert first. He said, well, I could call Tim and see if he's interested too. So that's how that came to be. And I think if King James, if it had exploded right away and become a huge hit in that time frame, things possibly could have been different. But it didn't. So, and then eventually, Stryper at that time, Michael Sweet was not with the band. They were a three-piece. They went through their own little dark ages there as well, and so they were working through some difficult times. And I think everything, when it comes down to it, I think everything in the end has worked out for the best, because I think that Stryper is the place for them to be, and King James is the place for us to be, and I could not be more happy with having the rhythm section that we have with Benny and with Michael. That's the right rhythm section for us. So that was not an attempt. It was incorrectly portrayed as, okay, here's a supergroup. Well, this is not a supergroup. We're trying to be a band. But
I think it actually says
like
supergroup on your Wikipedia page.
Yeah, labels get applied. Well, I didn't write that. Maybe I need to go in and try to put a correction to that. I don't know. I haven't seen it. People say things, but that's the truth as I see it. There was no attempt to be a quote unquote supergroup. But that's just the way it went, and it was great getting to be buds with those guys, and so that's a friendship that continues even now. So it's at the end of the day, can't really argue with it. It was a great effort, but now we are poised and we're in a much better position, I believe.
Now, one thing you mentioned is you had a revolving door on drummers and bass guitarists in Whitecross. I mean,
there's a real simple reason for that.
Well, please enlighten me.
It's just reality. Everybody's working double and triple time, day and night, all day long, but the size of the paycheck is like a you're getting paid for about 3/4 of a full-time job, and you're not getting any benefits or anything like that. So
Right.
over time, people just burn out, and there's only so much that you can do. And if I hate to put like economics on it, but it does. It just comes down to the math. And we always did what we could, but again, that was one of those things. That was then. This is now, and this is something that we really spent a lot of time on. That you will see individuals in King James doing other projects from time to time. That's going to happen. If Mike or Benny has a session on somebody's album, that's good for them. It's good for us. It's good for everybody. And I'm always working on varied interests that I have. If I have success in one area, it reflects in another area, and that's how we look at it. And Jimmy is certainly keeping active with his various efforts. But having said that, we're coming together for right at this moment, we are in the early stages of planning a tour for the spring, as our album has just finally, after a long delay, has come out. And I think we're going to have a really cool tour coming up here shortly.
Well, that sounds great.
It's all. I see like a lot of arrows pointing up. That's what I see.
Okay, I want to talk about some Whitecross history, because you guys started in a time. Well, it was a little bit before I got into playing Christian rock in the early '90s. What was it like, basically breaking through in? At the time, was more or less a new genre, because even when I started in my church, the first thing everybody said was, "You're of the devil." And it seemed like the secular people hated me for the lyrics, and my church just came down on me for the style of music. What did you have to face getting started back in the mid-'80s?
Well, I started in fall of 1977. Back then, Christian rock did not exist. There was, as far as I knew, there was exactly one Christian rock band, and that was Resurrection Band, as they were known back then. Mm-hmm. I had the good fortune of opening a show for them in the fall of 1977, and that was great for me because I had a whole bunch of ideas. I was a kid who loved Black Sabbath albums, and thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a rock band that was able to sing about God in a positive way and bring your Christianity into your music somehow. And I didn't have all the churchy kind of language terms that we have now. I didn't have words like, well, wouldn't it be great to share your faith in music? I didn't have language like that. All that stuff kind of comes later, but I just had these ideas about what I thought would be cool, and here was Resurrection Band saying, and that said to me, okay, here's sort of a template, if you will, that it can be done. And at that time, I had a band. It was not a recording band, but we would travel around and play at churches, and we would have our concerts would get cut off at the halfway mark, and the pastor would say, well, you guys are done for the night. You're carrying the ark on an ox cart, meaning that, if you think about it, what he's saying is rock and roll is an unfit medium for the gospel. And stuff like that was very crushing at the time, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and have, over the years, when Whitecross came out, vocally, yeah, sure, Scotty is he's very abrasive, to some people and to other people is like completely awesome. And one thing that's cool about Whitecross, it was very, very strong. Either, wow, I love it, it's the most awesome thing I've ever heard, or total, man, these guys suck. This isn't music, this is horrible, this is noise. So the reaction was very strong, and that, you know, if you think about it, this is what you want, is you want to get a reaction on people. The worst thing that could ever happen to your band is people go, oh, yeah, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you really like it? I guess if it was on the radio, I guess I wouldn't turn it off. You know, that is the worst thing you want, is to get like a lukewarm kind of reaction. You want people to react very strongly to what you're doing, because that means that you're hitting a nerve somewhere. So, you know, it's like 5 people are going to say, you suck, and then there's going to be like one person who goes, man, this is incredible, where can I get it? So, you know, that was Whitecross from the very beginning. So we had a very uphill battle within the CCM industry. And not with people, not with our fans, not with our friends, but just with the industry did not like us. And they just, you know, it's like they grudgingly put out our albums, and they weren't, it's almost like some people weren't happy because we were succeeding, because they wanted us to just go away. It's like, yeah, we're on your record label, but they didn't know how to, Star Song, they didn't know how to promote.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we did a new display for you guys in the Christian bookstore. We go and look at it. It's like, oh yeah, it's an advertisement for Star Song, and our name is listed on it. It's like
a footnote.
It's like, how about you guys, you know, like, think visionary, get us on a tour opening for Whitesnake or something like that. It's like, oh no, they did not have the vision for anything like that. How about you guys? If I'm such a great guitar player, why don't you guys call Guitar Player magazine, and, you know, which has like twice the circulation of CCM magazine.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're just going to go for the little article in CCM magazine, which is going to grudgingly write something respectful, instead of taking it to, you know, a mass audience where people might actually like it, and it might actually change people's lives and do all those things that you claim that you want to do. So that's the story, and that's a common story. If you talk to some of the other bands from the time, Bloodgood, Guardian, and so forth,
mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of a similar story that they went through. But Whitecross, we were the guinea pigs for a lot of things. And a lot of people have come along after Whitecross that have been able to cash in on things that we were kind of like some of the first people doing things that, you know, it was very novel ideas in its time, and nowadays people take for granted certain things. And the whole industry has grown up a little bit, and they see how, okay, you can have a band like Skillet that can be a crossover artist, this
right.
and that. And, you know, so things are a lot better today than they used to be for the Christian artists. So, but, you know, the main thing is that if you're an artist, you have a vision, you make the music that you want to make, and you find your audience, and you follow what God is telling you to do in your own life, and that's really it. That's all there is.
I was one of those who were on the side where, when I put in that self-titled Whitecross tape back at the day, my jaw hit the floor, and I was just like, this is it. For me, listening to Christian rock, especially when I first got into bands like Petra and Resband, and nobody else at my school had any clue who these bands were. It was like I had found this secret club. I was like this exclusive member of this club.
That's the other thing. People, you know, it's like in life, hi, my name is Rex. What do you do? Well, I play guitar. Oh, okay. I'm in a band. Well, what kind of music do you do? And I say, well, it's a Christian rock band. And people just give you these, huh?
Yeah.
These perplexed looks. They have no idea. What are you talking about? And some, and they say, okay, but they have no clue. And so the whole time it's like you're just swimming upstream constantly.
Right.
And I'm so glad to be well beyond that point, whereas today, you asked me the same question. Well, I play guitar in a band. Well, what is it? Well, it's a rock band. Well, what's the band? It's King James. As I was saying to some people last week, introducing them to the music, and I said, now check this song out. It's got a really awesome message that is changing lives, and just check out the lyrics on this. This might really speak to where you're at. And wow, and people are like, this is really awesome. And so I find that it's a lot better to just avoid labels of any kind. We're a rock band. We play music. We tell stories about what God has done in our lives, and the one thing that's really cool about King James in our ministry is we have a song called Miracles, which is a song about healing. God is still in the business of healing people today.
I love that song.
We pull into it's like 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and we've been on the road, and we pull into a laundromat, and we're so excited, great, we get to do the laundry. So we're just hanging out at the laundromat. Some blue-haired grandma walks in and goes, that's Jimmy Bennett. And she comes over, says, Jimmy, can I tell you about, my daughter and my granddaughter, this and that and the other. Next thing you know, I was like, we're this rock band, and Jimmy's over there ministering to a grandma, because of the song is really reaching people, and that is what is really awesome in our ministry is we can go talk to bikers, we can talk to rockers, we can talk to Christians. We do a great little cover of Just As I Am, and you think, you're kidding. Just as I am, no one free. It's like, now you go check it out. Go check out our version. It rocks. It's amazing.
All right, I'm going to ask you about an album called 1987. It was a completely re-recorded version of the
year 2005. We made an album called 1987.
Yes, a re-recorded version of the self-titled Whitecross album. Now, here's the loaded question. What was the biggest differences in recording it the first time and then recording it the second time?
Well, it was simply a matter of we were attempting to come back, and we had talked about, can we do a new studio album? And the reality was, at that point in time, there were, between myself as producer and our independent recording situation, it's like, well, can Scotty still sing? Can he still hit all the notes in the studio? It's been a while. We did not know. So we thought, okay, before we invest the time and money into a new album of all new material, let's try to get a handle on where are we at in the year 2005. So the easiest way, Scotty was in Nashville, I'm still up here in Chicago. So well, let's get together and try recording some of the songs from the first album. It went great, so we ended up just saying, you know what, let's just do all the songs of the first album. Now, that was actually a goal of mine anyways, because out of the entire Whitecross catalog, the songs of the first album are my personal favorites. But the flip side of that is that I don't care for the album technically. Mm-hmm. We've grown as a band and matured as musicians and had good musicians, and I have a studio now that we did not have back then. And when you hear the 1987 album, I guess one of the first things you'll notice is, whoa, it's like, sounds like a professional recording production.
Right.
That you would expect. So where the
drums are
technical
clear.
quality of the album, the technical recording of the album is not a distraction anymore. You can pop the CD in and go, hey, this rocks, and not be distracted or have to make excuses to your friends. Oh, don't worry about the recording. It's just a good, solid rendition all the way around. And I had asked Starsong back in the day, I asked, can we just possibly, for a bonus track or something, some of those songs like Enough is Enough or He Is the Rock,
right?
Can we just have a go at those? I mean, we've got time in the studio. And they said, nope, we're not going to do that. It's like, I don't know why, but they're totally into releasing greatest hits albums. And I'm like, hey, you could just offer this. If you're going to do a greatest hits album, you could do that and throw this in as a bonus track, as an inducement. But they never wanted to do it. They didn't want to allow it. So I had to wait until I had my own studio and was like, okay, now we can do whatever we want.
Right.
So that is how that album came to be. So a lot of engineers are what I call meterheads.
Ah.
They know the technical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this is a great console because it has, 5% distortion at such and such frequency.
Yep.
Yeah, but, if you're not a musician, well, I don't know, what are songs? A couple verses, a couple choruses, I don't know. And they don't really know, but it takes, I'll tell you, this is where John Lowry, and this is, you can put this part on the record if you want. John Lowry is amazing because he's a keyboard player from Petra,
mm-hmm.
and he has an engineering degree.
Oh, wow.
So you want to talk about meters? He's the kind of guy who, like, just for fun, for a hobby, he buys, like, an old microphone. Oh, yeah, he just took me around the studio. Yeah, I ripped this one apart and swapped out the capsule. And here's a little mod that you can do on a Shure SM57 to get it to run hotter. And over here, yeah, I built this myself. And, if you take this mic preamp over here, but if you swap this tube out, it'll run, you'll get more high-end out of this, or you'll get more mid-range guts out of it. And, oh, yeah, over here, this is, here's a little trick I do with this, because, and he is, I know, don't get me wrong, I know a lot about recording, but John was very committed to sonic integrity. If you have to apply EQ, then that means you didn't get your recording right. He's fanatical about make it sound right at the source.
Be smart in your recording.
And here's the interesting thing about recording, and this is on the record. Recording is, if you want to have a successful recording, you start with a great song.
Right.
Huh. Isn't that an interesting concept?
In today's music,
our record didn't work out. Well, maybe your song wasn't any good to start with. Start with a great song. Then start with a great musician.
Right.
After that. Then get great equipment, as in like a guitar and an amp that sound amazing, or a drum that sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. Then match it up to the right mic, run the mic through the right mic amplifier,
mm-hmm.
and everything, as John explains it, everything about miking is about phase.
Right.
If everything stays in phase, which sounds easy, but it's not so easy.
That can be tricky.
But if you have a great song, a great musician, a great drum kit, a great bass rig, whatever, great guitar amp, if you have the right microphone on the vocalist, you might have a microphone that sounds amazing. You put a $5,000 mic on a vocalist, and it might not sound so great. You take a $600 semi-pro mic, put it on the same vocalist, and it's like, whoa, all of a sudden the sound explodes out of the speaker because, as an engineer, that's your job, is to know, oh, I hear this kind of quality in the voice. That quality of the voice goes really well with this particular mic. And having the ears to hear that, and also sometimes the recording is fine, but the engineer has to be a musician. Now, here's where it's great, because John Lowry is also a musician.
Right.
He's like, the reason this isn't working is because let's try changing this part here. Boom. Now all of a sudden everything sounds amazing. And that really was great. We had a great three-way process when we were recording vocal tracks, especially with Jimmy, because Jimmy has worked with John Lowry before on the Victor stuff. And so John has a way with Jimmy, and I would be kind of like in the middle, just checking things off, and so between the three of us, got, again, just everything was just, couldn't have